My father stood in front of 30 relatives, pointed at me, and said 5 words that made everyone laugh. By the next morning, those same people were calling me in tears. At 34 years old, I thought nothing could humiliate me anymore. Then my father grounded me in front of my entire family. What happened 12 hours later changed everything. The night began with a family celebration. It ended with a secret worth millions of dollars, a shattered reputation, and a truth nobody saw coming. The night everything changed at 34 years old, I thought I had experienced every kind of disappointment my father could give me. For as long as I could remember, he had treated me differently than everyone else in the family. No matter what I achieved, it was never enough. When I graduated with honors, he said I could have done better. When I started my own business, he called it a hobby. When I bought my first house, he told everyone I had simply gotten lucky. After years of trying to earn his approval, I eventually stopped trying, or at least I thought I had. Then came my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. Nearly 30 relatives traveled from different states to attend. The house was packed with cousins, uncles, aunts, and family friends. Everyone was smiling. Everyone seemed happy. For once, I hoped the evening would be peaceful. I even spent weeks preparing a special anniversary gift. A custom photo album containing 4 decades of family memories. I wanted my parents to know that despite everything, I still cared. The party went smoothly during the first few hours. People ate dinner. Children played outside. Music filled the backyard. Then my father stood up. He tapped his glass with a spoon. The room immediately became silent. Everyone turned toward him. My mother smiled proudly. I assumed he was about to give a speech about marriage, family, or gratitude. Instead, he looked directly at me. A strange smile appeared on his face, the kind of smile that made my stomach tighten. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "I have an important family decision to share tonight." Everyone listened carefully. My father pointed directly at me. Then he said something that made the entire room freeze. "Tanya is officially grounded." For 1 second, nobody reacted. People looked around, unsure whether they had heard correctly. Then laughter erupted throughout the room. My cousins laughed, my uncles laughed. Even some family friends laughed. I sat frozen in my chair. Surely this was some kind of joke. But my father wasn't laughing. His expression remained serious. "I'm completely serious," he continued. "Starting today, Tanya will no longer be involved in any family decisions." The laughter slowly faded. People realized he meant every word. "She will have no access to family meetings, family investments, or family property matters." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Excuse me," I finally said. My voice trembled. "What are you talking about?" My father ignored the question. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out several documents. He held them high enough for everyone to see. "Effective immediately, responsibility for important family matters will be transferred elsewhere." Murmurs spread throughout the crowd. I felt my face turning red. The humiliation was unbearable. 30 relatives watched as my father publicly stripped me of responsibilities I didn't even know were being discussed. Nobody defended me. Nobody questioned him. Nobody asked whether this was appropriate. Then something happened that hurt even more. Several relatives started applauding, as if they were witnessing an achievement, as if my humiliation were entertainment. At that moment, I realized something. This wasn't spontaneous. This had been planned. My father had prepared this announcement. He had chosen the audience. He had chosen the timing, and he wanted everyone to see it. I quietly stood up. Without saying another word, I grabbed my purse and walked toward the door. Nobody stopped me. Nobody followed me. As I reached my car, my phone vibrated. A text message appeared from an unknown number. The message contained only one sentence. "Your father isn't telling the truth. If you want answers, don't go home." And beneath that message was an address I had never seen before. I stared at the screen. A cold feeling spread through my body, because something told me that the worst part of this story had only just begun. I stared at the message for nearly a minute. "Your father isn't telling the truth. If you want answers, don't go home." Below it was an address. No name, no explanation, no clue who had sent it. My first instinct was to ignore it. The entire evening had already been humiliating enough. The last thing I needed was some stranger playing games with me, but something felt different. The timing was too perfect. Whoever sent the text knew exactly what had happened at the party. And somehow, deep down, I knew they were right. My father wasn't telling the whole truth. I looked at the address again. It was only 15 minutes away. An old industrial area on the edge of town. The kind of place nobody visited at night. I started my car. The drive felt longer than it actually was. Questions raced through my mind. Who sent the message? What secret was my father hiding? Why had he humiliated me in front of everyone? The closer I got to the address, the more nervous I became. Finally, I arrived. The location was an old storage building. Half the windows were broken. Most of the surrounding businesses had been abandoned years ago. The parking lot was empty except for one black SUV. My heart pounded. I almost turned around. Then my phone vibrated again. Another message. Go inside. Locker 117. The key is under the flower pot. I looked around. Nobody was visible. The entire place was silent. After several seconds, I stepped out of the car. The cold night air sent chills through my body. Near the entrance sat a small, cracked flower pot. Underneath it was a key. Exactly where the message said it would be. My hands shook as I picked it up. Someone had planned this. Someone wanted me here. Inside, the building smelled like dust and rust. Rows of storage lockers stretched endlessly in both directions. I found locker 117. The key fit perfectly. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I unlocked it. The metal door creaked open. Inside were 3 cardboard boxes, nothing else. No person, no explanation, just boxes. I opened the first one. My breath caught. Every folder inside had my father's name on it. Tax records, property documents, bank statements, business agreements. Thousands of pages. The second box was even stranger. Photographs, dozens of them. Pictures taken over nearly 20 years. Some showed family gatherings. Some showed business meetings. Some showed people I didn't recognize. Then I found something that made my stomach drop. A photograph of my father meeting privately with my cousin Derek. The same cousin he had publicly praised at the party. The same cousin everyone expected to inherit control of family assets. Written on the back was a date. 7 years ago, long before anyone knew about the upcoming inheritance discussions. I continued digging through the photos. The deeper I looked, the more uncomfortable I became. Meeting after meeting. Secret gathering after secret gathering. It was clear they had been working together for years. But why? Then I opened the third box, and everything changed. Inside was a leather folder. Old, worn, locked. Fortunately, a small key had been taped to the side. I unlocked it. The first document nearly made me drop it. It was a property ownership agreement. One signature belonged to my grandfather. The second belonged to my father. The third signature space was blank, but the name printed beneath it shocked me. Tanya Williams, my name. I flipped through more pages. Another document, my name again, then another, and another. Nearly every major family property listed me as a future beneficiary. Not Derek, not anyone else. Me. I sat down on the cold concrete floor. None of this made sense. If these papers were real, my father had been preparing something completely different from what he announced at the party. So why publicly embarrass me? Why remove me from family decisions? Why make everyone believe I had lost everything? Suddenly my phone rang, unknown number. I answered immediately. Hello, a deep voice replied. You found the documents. Who is this? Someone trying to help you. Why? The caller paused, then said something that made my blood run cold. Because your father found out what Derek has been doing. I froze. What are you talking about? Look at the red folder in the bottom of the third box. The line disconnected. I immediately searched the box. There it was. A red folder hidden underneath everything else. I opened it. Inside were financial records, transfer receipts, bank accounts, offshore transactions, millions of dollars, and every document connected to one person. Derek. My hands trembled. The evidence suggested the impossible. For years, Derek had secretly been moving family money. Large amounts. Amounts nobody could easily explain. If the documents were authentic, he had stolen more than $2 million. I stared at the numbers, unable to breathe, unable to think, unable to understand how any of this was possible. Then I reached the final page. Attached was a handwritten note. I recognized the handwriting instantly. It belonged to my father. The note read, "If you're reading this, things have already gone wrong. Trust nobody until you know the full truth." And at the bottom was one final sentence. A sentence that changed everything. "Someone in our family is willing to destroy lives to keep this secret." I barely slept. The documents I had discovered inside the storage locker kept replaying in my mind. The secret meetings, the missing money, the strange note from my father, and most importantly, the warning. Someone in our family is willing to destroy lives to keep this secret. At first, I thought it sounded dramatic. By sunrise, I realized it wasn't, because someone had broken into my house. I discovered it the moment I walked downstairs. The front door was slightly open. My stomach tightened. I was certain I had locked it before going to bed. Slowly, I stepped into the living room. Everything looked normal. The television was untouched. My laptop was still on the desk. Nothing appeared stolen. Then I saw the boxes, or rather, I saw that one of them was missing. The second box. The one containing dozens of photographs. My heart nearly stopped. Whoever entered my home knew exactly what they wanted. They ignored everything else. They took only the evidence, which meant one thing. Someone knew I had visited the storage locker. Someone was watching me. I immediately called the police. 2 officers arrived an hour later. They inspected the house. Unfortunately, there were no fingerprints, no security footage, no witnesses, nothing. The break-in looked professional. As the officers left, one of them gave me a piece of advice. "Be careful." That was it. Be careful. As if someone stealing evidence from my home wasn't already terrifying enough. The moment they drove away, my phone rang. Unknown number. Again, I answered immediately. "Who are you?" The familiar voice returned. "You should leave your house." My pulse accelerated. "How do you know about the break-in?" Silence. Then the caller replied. "Because I expected it. Who are you? That doesn't matter. It matters to me. You don't have time for that." I gripped the phone tighter. "Tell me what's going on." The caller paused, then said something shocking. "The photographs were never the real target." "What?" "They wanted the black notebook." My eyes widened. "What black notebook?" "Check the bottom of the first box." The call disconnected. Again, I rushed to the remaining boxes, carefully removing every folder, every document, every file. Then I found it, hidden beneath a false cardboard layer. A black notebook, small, old, almost invisible. I opened the first page and immediately recognized my father's handwriting. This wasn't a notebook. It was a journal, a detailed record spanning nearly 10 years. Every page contained notes. Names, dates, meetings, financial transactions, suspicions, investigations. The more I read, the more unbelievable the story became. My father had known about the missing money for years, but he hadn't been able to prove who was responsible. At first, he suspected outsiders, then business partners, then employees. Eventually, all evidence pointed toward someone inside the family, someone trusted, someone respected, someone close. My hands trembled as I turned another page, then another, and another. Finally, I reached an entry written 6 months earlier. The name on the page nearly made me drop the notebook. Derek, my cousin, the same cousin everyone admired, the same cousin my father publicly praised at the anniversary party. According to the journal, Derek had been secretly moving money through fake investments. Small amounts at first, then larger amounts. Over time, the missing funds had reached millions of dollars, yet somehow nobody noticed, or perhaps nobody wanted to notice. Then I found something even worse. A recent journal entry, only 3 weeks old. The final paragraph read, "I finally have proof. Derek knows I'm getting close. If anything happens to me, Tanya must learn the truth." I froze. Read it again, and again. Tanya must learn the truth. Me, my father had written my name. Suddenly, nothing made sense. If my father trusted me enough to leave these clues, why had he humiliated me in front of the entire family? Why make me look like an enemy? Why publicly destroy my reputation? Then I remembered the announcement. His exact words. He never actually accused me of wrongdoing. He never called me dishonest. He never blamed me for anything. He simply removed me from family matters, almost as if he was trying to distance me from something or someone. A terrifying possibility entered my mind. What if my father wasn't attacking me? What if he was protecting me? Before I could think further, a loud knock echoed through the house. I jumped. 3 sharp knocks. Someone was at the door. Slowly, I approached the window, and my blood ran cold. Standing outside was Derek, smiling, holding a gift basket, as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just become the center of the biggest secret in our family's history. Then my phone vibrated. Another message from the unknown number appeared. This time it contained only 6 words. Do not tell Derek anything. My phone screen was still glowing. Do not tell Derek anything. I read the message twice, then 3 times. The warning couldn't have arrived at a worse moment, because Derek was already standing outside my front door, smiling, waiting. I quickly locked the notebook inside a kitchen cabinet. Then I took a deep breath and opened the door. Derek, hey, cousin. His voice sounded perfectly normal, too normal, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if I hadn't just spent the entire night uncovering evidence connected to his name. He lifted the gift basket. I heard you left the party upset. I forced a smile. That's thoughtful. Can I come in? For a second, I considered saying no, but I needed answers, and sometimes the best way to catch someone lying is to let them talk. Sure, Derek walked inside. His eyes immediately began scanning the room. The movement was subtle. Most people wouldn't notice, but I did. He wasn't admiring the house. He was searching for something, the missing box, the notebook, evidence. Something. I led him to the kitchen. We sat across from each other. For a few minutes, the conversation remained casual. Weather, work, family, nothing important. Then Derek slowly steered the discussion toward the party. I'm sorry about what happened. I shrugged. It is what it is. No, he shook his head. It wasn't right. His concern almost sounded genuine, almost. Then he leaned forward. What do you think your father meant? There it was. The real reason he came, not to apologize, not to comfort me, to gather information. I pretended to think. I'm honestly confused. Derek nodded. Yeah. Then he added something interesting. Maybe he's worried about the family properties. I froze internally. Family properties. Why mention that specifically? My father's announcement had been vague. Most people wouldn't immediately think about property ownership. Yet Derek did. Almost instinctively, I kept my expression neutral. What properties? Derek immediately realized his mistake. His smile faltered for half a second, then returned. Oh, you know, he waved his hand casually. The usual stuff. The usual stuff. Right. My suspicion grew stronger. The conversation continued. The longer we talked, the more uncomfortable Derek became, and the more uncomfortable he became, the more mistakes he made. Then came the biggest mistake of all. I heard your father has been collecting documents. My heart nearly stopped. I stared at him. What documents? Derek's eyes widened. For the first time all morning, he looked nervous. I don't know. Then how did you hear about them? Silence. A long silence. He quickly laughed. Family gossip. But it sounded fake, very fake, because nobody should know about those documents. Nobody except me, the anonymous caller, and possibly my father. Yet somehow Derek knew. That meant only one thing: he was involved. Before I could press further, my phone vibrated. A text message. Unknown number. Again. I glanced at the screen and nearly dropped the phone. The message contained a photograph. A recent photograph, taken through my kitchen window. Someone had photographed Derek sitting across from me. The picture couldn't have been more than 30 seconds old. Below it was another message. He's not the only one watching you. A chill ran through my entire body. Someone was outside, right now, watching us. I looked toward the window. Nothing, just sunlight, trees, an empty street, but the photograph proved otherwise. Someone was there. The question was who, and whether they were friend or enemy. I quickly locked the phone. Derek noticed. Everything okay? Yeah. I forced another smile. Just work. Thankfully, he didn't push further. After another 10 minutes, he finally stood. I should get going. I walked him to the door. Just before leaving, he turned around, then asked a question that completely changed everything. By the way, his voice sounded casual. Too casual. Have you visited any storage facilities lately? My blood turned cold. For a second, I couldn't speak. The storage locker, the documents, the boxes. Nobody should know about that location. Nobody. Yet Derek somehow did. The moment our eyes met, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't guessing. He knew. And he was watching my reaction. I forced myself to remain calm. No. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Derek smiled. The same friendly smile he always wore. Good. He turned around and left. I immediately locked the door behind him. My hands were shaking because now I knew for certain. Derek wasn't merely suspicious. He was connected. The only question remaining was how deep the connection went. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered instantly. Who are you? The familiar voice replied. Listen carefully. I'm listening. The journal isn't the most important thing your father left behind. What is? A pause followed. Then the caller spoke 4 words. The safety deposit box. I froze. What safety deposit box? Your father rented one 3 years ago. My heart pounded. What's inside? If I'm right, the caller hesitated. Everything. The line went silent, then disconnected. Again. I immediately searched through the journal. Page after page. Finally, near the back, I found a bank receipt. A safety deposit box number. A branch location. And a date. Tomorrow. The access authorization became valid tomorrow morning. Not today, tomorrow. Almost as if my father expected me to find it at exactly this moment. But before I could process that discovery, another sound echoed through the house. A crash, coming from upstairs. I froze. Someone else was inside. And this time, they weren't trying to be quiet. The crash came from upstairs. Loud, sudden, violent. For a moment, I stood frozen in the kitchen. Every instinct told me to run, but another part of me knew I couldn't. Someone had broken into my house for the second time in less than 24 hours. And this time they weren't trying to hide it. Slowly, I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon. A heavy metal flashlight. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. Another noise echoed from upstairs. A drawer being pulled open. Then another. Whoever was up there was searching for something. The notebook, the documents, evidence. I moved quietly toward the staircase. Each step felt heavier than the last. Halfway up, I heard footsteps, fast footsteps. The intruder knew I was coming. I reached the 2nd floor. The hallway was empty, but my bedroom door was open. I had left it closed. The moment I stepped closer, I heard movement inside. Someone was there. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, then pushed the door open. A masked figure stood near my desk, dressed completely in black, gloves, hood, face covered. The person immediately turned toward me. For 1 second, we simply stared at each other, neither moving, neither speaking. Then the intruder ran. I reacted instantly. Stop! The masked figure shoved a chair into my path. I barely avoided falling. The intruder sprinted toward the hallway, then toward the stairs. I chased after them. Adrenaline erased my fear. The only thing I cared about was catching them. We reached the front door. The intruder pulled it open and rushed outside. I followed. But by the time I reached the driveway, they were already climbing into a dark SUV. The vehicle sped away, gone within seconds. I stood there breathing heavily, furious, terrified, confused. Then I noticed something on the ground, a small object. The intruder had dropped it while running. I picked it up. At first it looked ordinary, just a key card. Then I saw the logo. My stomach dropped. The card belonged to my father's private office building. The same building where he managed family business records. The same building only trusted individuals could access. I flipped it over and saw the name printed on the back. My blood ran cold. Derek Williams. For several seconds I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. The card was undeniable. It belonged to Derek. But another question immediately appeared. Had Derek been the intruder? Or had someone wanted me to think he was? The difference mattered, a lot, Because if someone was planting evidence, then the situation was even more dangerous than I imagined. I returned inside, locked every door, closed every curtain, then carefully inspected my bedroom. The intruder had searched everything. Closets, drawers, shelves, even underneath the mattress, but thankfully, they hadn't found the notebook. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to organize everything. Then my phone rang, unknown number, again. I answered immediately. This better be important. It is. The familiar voice sounded more serious than ever. They made their move sooner than expected. Who are they? You already know one of them. Derek. Silence. Not confirmation, not denial, just silence. Tell me the truth, the caller sighed. You're running out of time. I'm tired of riddles. I know. Then tell me who you are. Another pause, then finally, I worked for your father. I froze. What? For 12 years? My heart raced. Why didn't you say that before? Because if my name becomes public, I'm dead. The fear in his voice sounded genuine. For the first time, I believed him. Why are you helping me? Because your father trusted you. I remembered the journal, the note, the clues, everything pointed back to the same thing. My father wanted me involved. The question was why. Then the caller said something shocking. Your father never intended to embarrass you. I sat upright. What? The announcement at the party wasn't punishment. Then what was it? A shield. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A shield from what? The caller lowered his voice. From the people stealing from your family. My pulse accelerated. Suddenly everything started making sense. The public announcement, the removal from Family Matters, the humiliation, the distance. My father wasn't pushing me away. He was making it appear that I no longer mattered, making me look irrelevant, invisible, safe. The caller continued. Your father knew someone was watching him. How long? Years. And Derek, the caller hesitated, then answered. Derek was only one piece of the puzzle. My heart sank. What does that mean? It means he wasn't working alone. The room suddenly felt smaller, hotter, more dangerous, because if Derek wasn't alone, then there were others, family members, people I trusted, people who smiled at me at the anniversary party, people sitting beside me at dinner. The caller continued. The safety deposit box contains evidence against all of them. All of them. The words echoed inside my head. Not one person, not two, an entire group. Then came the sentence that changed everything. Tomorrow morning they'll try to get there before you. I stood immediately. The bank, exactly. If they get the contents first, everything disappears. My hands tightened. What do I do? The caller answered without hesitation. Get there first. Then the line disconnected. I looked at the clock. 8:42 p.m. The bank wouldn't open until morning. Which meant one thing. The people behind this conspiracy had the entire night to act. And if they already knew about the safety deposit box, tomorrow morning might become a race. A race for the truth. A race for evidence. A race that could decide the future of my entire family. As I prepared for the longest night of my life, a notification appeared on my phone. A new message. Unknown sender. No text. Only a photograph. I opened it, and immediately felt all the blood drain from my face. The picture showed the safety deposit box. Someone had already found it, and taped to the front was a handwritten note. Stay away, Tanya. This is your final warning. I didn't sleep, not even for a minute. The photograph remained on my phone screen for hours. The safety deposit box. The warning, the threat. Whoever sent it wanted me scared. Wanted me to stay home. Wanted me to give up. But after everything that had happened, I couldn't walk away. Too many questions remained unanswered. Too many lies remained hidden. And most importantly, I needed to know why my father had chosen me. At 8 a.m. sharp, I arrived at the bank. The parking lot was already crowded. My stomach tightened, because several vehicles looked familiar. Family vehicles. I parked and stepped out. Then immediately spotted Derek, standing near the entrance. He wasn't alone. 2 uncles, an aunt, and 3 cousins stood nearby. None of them were talking, but they were all watching the front doors, waiting. The moment Derek noticed me, his expression changed. For a brief second, panic flashed across his face. Then it disappeared. That reaction told me everything. He hadn't expected me to show up. Good. The bank opened. Everyone entered. The atmosphere felt strange, tense, almost like nobody wanted to acknowledge why they were there. I walked directly to the manager's office. Inside, I presented the authorization papers from my father's journal. The manager reviewed them carefully, then nodded. Everything appears valid. My heart pounded. He disappeared into a secure area. Several minutes later, he returned carrying a metal container. The safety deposit box. This was it. Years of secrets, years of lies, years of manipulation, all hidden inside one box. The manager placed it on the table, then quietly left. I opened it, and immediately understood why people were willing to break into homes to find it. Inside were documents, dozens of them. But there was something else. A flash drive and a sealed envelope. My hands shook as I opened the envelope first. Inside was a handwritten letter from my father. The date showed it had been written only 2 weeks earlier. I began reading. Tanya, if you are reading this, then events have unfolded exactly as I feared. My throat tightened. For years, I have investigated the theft of family assets. What began as small discrepancies eventually revealed something much larger. I continued reading. Multiple family members participated, some knowingly, some unknowingly. Millions of dollars disappeared. My pulse accelerated. The evidence inside this box proves everything. Then I reached the paragraph that made tears fill my eyes. The announcement at the anniversary party was never meant to hurt you. I stopped, read it again, then continued. I knew certain relatives were monitoring every move I made. I needed them to believe you were no longer important to family affairs. If they viewed you as irrelevant, they would stop watching you. The tears became impossible to hold back. All this time, the humiliation, the embarrassment, the public humiliation in front of 30 relatives, it wasn't punishment, it was protection. My father had sacrificed our relationship to keep me safe. Then came the final paragraph. You were the only person I could trust. For several seconds, I simply stared at the words. The only person I could trust, after all these years, after all our arguments, after all the disappointment. My father trusted me more than anyone. I wiped my eyes and picked up the flash drive. Fortunately, the bank provided a secure computer. I inserted it. A folder immediately appeared. Inside were hundreds of files, financial records, bank transfers, property transactions, emails, recorded conversations. The evidence was overwhelming and devastating. The conspiracy was real. Not only was Derek involved. 5 other relatives were involved as well. Years of fraud. Years of deception, years of theft, everything documented, everything proven. I sat in silence, staring at the screen. Then I heard a voice behind me. What's on the drive, Derek? I slowly turned around. Several family members stood in the doorway, watching, waiting. Their faces were pale, nervous, afraid. For the first time, I understood why. Because guilty people fear evidence. I stood, looked directly at Derek, and asked a simple question. How much did you take? His face immediately changed. The confident smile disappeared. Nobody spoke. The room became silent. Then one uncle suddenly walked away. Another looked toward the floor. The pressure was breaking them. Derek finally laughed, but it sounded forced. What are you talking about? I turned the computer screen toward him, displayed one of the financial records. His face lost all color. For several seconds, nobody moved, nobody breathed. Nobody spoke, then something unexpected happened. My aunt started crying. I told you this would happen. The room froze. Derek stared at her. She stared back. Years of guilt suddenly appeared on her face, and once one person broke, everything collapsed. One confession led to another. One truth exposed another. One secret revealed 10 more. By noon, attorneys were involved. By afternoon, investigators arrived. And by evening, the entire scheme had been exposed. The people who laughed at me during the anniversary party were no longer laughing. Some were crying. Some were apologizing. Some couldn't even look me in the eyes. The truth had changed everything. A week later, the family gathered again. This time, there was no celebration. No music. No speeches, just honesty. For the first time in years. My father stood in front of everyone. The same place where he had publicly humiliated me. The same place where everyone laughed. Then he did something nobody expected. He apologized, in front of everyone. "I hurt my daughter to protect her." The room remained silent. He looked directly at me. "I'm sorry." Those two words carried years of emotion. Years of misunderstanding. Years of pain. I walked toward him. And for the first time in a very long time, we hugged. Not because everything was perfect. Not because the damage disappeared. But because the truth was finally known, and sometimes, the truth is the first step toward healing. Final lesson: never judge a situation before knowing the full story. Sometimes the people who seem to hurt us are fighting battles we cannot see. And sometimes the greatest act of protection looks exactly like betrayal, until the truth finally comes to light.